Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Kachidori.
Hey, hello, this is Yeukai Kachidori, and welcome back to another very special episode. And with me is a dear friend all the way from Sydney, Australia, down under, Nils Vesk, who has been in the business for the last 22 years and thrives on helping business owners like you and me and many others around the world do well in what they do. And today we're going to be talking about something which I think is very, very important, especially given that we are post-pandemic. And that is how to, if you're taking notes, pivot the business rapidly at minimal risk and minimal cost. So if you want to know how to do exactly that, you may want to grab that journal so you can dignify your discoveries, or just call somebody to tune in so that they too may land. Nils, thank you so much for joining us here today on the show.
My pleasure.
It is very early over there, and we appreciate you taking time to help our audience here today. What time is it there right now?
It's just past 5 o'clock in the morning.
Amazing. Look, Bill, you and I do this all the time. We do whatever it takes to get the business going. And here is another gentleman demonstrating how to do that. Well, enough of that. Nils, there are a lot of people who need what you have, but they don't know who you are. Would you very briefly tell us who you are, some of the things you've done, and what you're working on today?
Yeah, great question. I guess most of my clients sometimes call me an innovation architect, and I guess that's a fancy pants way of saying I help people design ways that they can either invent or reinvent new products, improve their processes, or improve their services that they do. And I do that with companies around the world, from your Fortune 500 companies such as Nestle, Canon, Microsoft, IBM, you name it, as well as a lot of small startups and even very, very small micro businesses. And what we usually do, and one of the biggest challenges that companies, and big or small, have is the fear of making mistakes. So whenever we're working with a company, the biggest thing that we're always concerned about is how can we enable them to get better results, but do it at minimal risk and at minimal cost. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do.
Indeed, and as of today, you work with over 200 blue chip companies, which is quite impressive, and you truly are changing the world one company at a time. And I love that you spend some time to help people today as well. Other than that, I know you are a great sportsmanship. Talk to us about that, because it's not all business, is it?
Yeah, you've got to live your life. I have a bit of an unusual sport, and that is that I like to jump off cliffs with a hang glider. And so my sport is hang gliding. So imagine a kite, put it up in the air and hang underneath it and try and fly a few hundred kilometers around the area. So I represent Australia at a couple of world championships. Actually, we're going over to the European championships to compete as a separate nation there. And yeah, that's sort of one of our things. So we fly in mountains, we fly in the plains, and that's sort of an exciting activity that keeps me busy when I'm not working with companies and other people.
Love that. I love that. We truly believe in a holistic approach to life. They do business and also play hard and also do other things. Because you and I are many things. We're not just one thing. We don't fit in a box, but we can do all things. So I love that. And again, we are looking at how to pivot a business rapidly at minimal risk. The key word there is minimal risk and minimal cost. Nils, talk to us. How did you end up in this position of helping people with helping them change?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Just quickly put, I used to be a designer, urban designer, a landscape architect, designing things, but my first job ever was working as an interior designer. So very quickly I worked out that design was universal, whether you were designing a building, whether designing a urban design Piazza or a square or designing a business. And after a number of years of working in the design world, I kind of fell into the world of lifestyle. I was a yoga teacher, wrote a yoga lifestyle book. I was on a TV show, but I had a mentor who very quickly said, "How do you come up with all of your ideas?" I said, "Well, that's what I used to get paid to do." He said, "Well, I want you to, think of ways that you can help my company come up with lots of ideas and then build them." So I went away, worked out, the 7 or the 10 ways to do that, came back, told him about it, and he said, "Great, mentor me." So I mentored this one particular business consultant for about 6 months or so. And then he said, "This rocks." And then he started to hook me up with 4 CEOs around Sydney. And that's when the penny dropped. I realized that even though I was a designer, I could help people redesign their businesses. And one of the guys who sold his company about 7 years ago for $100 million, before he sold that, he hired me. He said, "I don't know how you do it, but we want you to come and work for us, 2 days a week with your thinking." And so that was sort of opened the door to, I can help people redesign their businesses to get better products, better services, or better processes. So that's kind of the nutshell of how I fell into this world.
Indeed. I love what you mentioned there about mentors. This is something that we often talk about here on the show, that mentors often see things that you as a business owner might not see. And if you get one who's very good, and we've got some amazing mentors who come on the show here, including Nils here, that can help you see potential. They can see potentials in you. So I love that. Let's dive deep in there. If you are to help a company here today, maybe they have struggled during the pandemic, or they are in any stage of their business, things are not going so well. What would be the very first step, Nils, that you would recommend they take in order to start this journey of pivoting their business into either a new product, a new design, whatever it may be?
Yeah, I think, and this is going to sound so basic, and it's very un-Harvard-esque. It's not an exclusive thing, but it works. And we would always start with what's called a stop, start, continue map. So we would create a big chart that might be 4 meters wide, and in these 3 different categories, we would think of a number of maybe 4 or 5 parts of the business. So it could be something, so for example, marketing, it could be in production, it could be in service, it could be in sales, whatever those divisions might be. And then we'd go, okay, what do we need to stop doing in regards to our production? Or what do we need to stop doing in regards to our marketing? What do we need to stop doing in terms of our customer service? And so we would work through getting people, also their team members. It's always important to get your whole team members involved in this, giving them post-it notes to write these down, sticking them on the chart. Right, we've got to stop these things. Then we'd look at what should we continue, what's working well, and we'd go through all of those categories, and then we would move over to what should we start, what are those new things. So that would be the absolute first step that gives you a really good layout, visual layout of what's working, what's not working, and what we've actually got to start to do. And that would be the first thing that we would start with.
One thing perhaps for listeners there, maybe you are a small business. This may be just with your assistants, or someone who knows the business, who you've been working with. Get somebody working with you on that, so you have a bigger picture. It's a worthwhile experience to do that, because it sort of highlights areas that you possibly, as a business owner, might not be aware of, but the team that are doing this stuff, right on the ground, knows exactly what's working and what's not working, and they will help you to come up with ideas, for sure. Worthwhile experience. It may be costly, but the benefits far outweighs the cost of doing that. And Niels, after they have that clarity, in your opinion, where should they go next?
Yeah, so something that we always get people to look at is to think like a futurist. So if you're not familiar with a futurist, they're kind of like Nostradamus meets Steve Jobs. They look through a crystal ball and they go, what's coming up? What are the emerging trends? Because if we can spot an emerging trend, we can capitalize on it before our competition. And whenever there's a disruption, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's just a change in the economy, there is always something new that's coming up. And to think like a futurist, what we do is to get people to think of what's an emerging socio-cultural trend, a technological trend, an environmental trend, and an economic trend, or a political trend that we could capitalize on that's somehow going to affect our customers. So that the acronym is called STEEP. And using that method enables you to think of, I didn't realize that there seems to be this real move towards a, shared economy, or I didn't realize that there seemed to be a real move towards customization or personalization in businesses or in products or in customer service. And so doing a little bit of what's called an environmental scan using this STEEP technique can often enable you to quickly work out, here's an opportunity that I can work on. So that would be looking at an emerging trend. The other thing that we would get them to be looking at as well is what the bottleneck.
Before we move on to the next one, I think you touched on a very important concept. I would love us to explore that a bit for any business who is one. How do you actually do that? Can we go through that STEEP method, maybe in details, so that people can leave this time together here with an exact action plan of what they're going to be doing to identify those trends? I think this is critical.
Yeah. And so there's a few different businesses, or I guess you'd call them online services, that can do these things for you. But usually, if you go about it cleverly, you can get a free, what we call trial period, that usually enable you to do that quite quickly. So a good example would be a website called trends.co. And trends.co is I guess you'd call it a trend spotting or a futurist spotting website that has some really, really clever people on there that are sharing what's coming up. So you could probably, I think you get a 7-day trial for that one. That's one example out there. And so basically you just look for, trend spotting sites. Another one is trendhunter.com. That's another sort of site that can enable you to look for, emerging products and processes that are, happening and sort of starting to come up there. So generally, that's one way to do it. Another one on Google is Google Trends. So Google Trends will enable you to look at, for a particular area, or globally, or in one city, or in one country, what's an emerging trend. So that's based around the search traffic that people are spending looking around a particular topic and idea. So that's another way that you can do it. But generally, the best one would probably be going through just looking at some trend spotting sites to see what's emerging. I think there's another one called springwise.com, which is a good UK-based version, but there are plenty of them out there. So I do a Google search for trend spotting sites, free trial, and then you can usually get enough done in that amount of time. But again, the acronym goes through those different areas. A lot of challenges that people have is that they might think in that acronym, they go, well, I don't really relate to the environment. But the reality is your clients or your potential customers may very well be interested in what's happening in the environment. So it's still worth looking across those 5 different areas: socio-cultural trends, technological scientific trends, economic trends, environmental trends, political legal trends. So it's almost like you're putting a lens, some glasses on, that are looking for how will this affect our customers, what they want, what we're offering, and what they want to buy.
Absolutely love that. I'll tell you a story. Actually, a while ago, I was talking to the gentleman who introduced me to the world of business, and he said something to the effect of what you're saying, that you as a business owner, you want to be at the tip of an arrow, if you use the old example, rather than to be at the tail of an arrow. By being at the tip, it's like you see exactly where the arrow is going and be right there. Let the movement and the trend to carry you through. You will achieve more. You get more out of that. It's that old saying that the earliest bird catches the fattest worm, so to speak. So this truly is a great way of positioning yourself and to get more opportunities ahead of you. Appreciate that. Let's talk about the other aspect that you mentioned. That after you've got all this sorted out.
Yeah. So the other area I was talking about is what are the bottlenecks, and the reality is, whether you've got a bottleneck for you in your product, process, or service, or for your customer, that is more often than not the simplest way to do a quick business pivot. And for whatever reason, we seem to sort of forget about it. So let's say, for example, there might be an industry bottleneck that has just been around for a long, long time that people just don't want to deal with because, oh, that's the way the industry is. A customer doesn't see it that way. So if you can address the industry bottleneck or the customer bottleneck or the bottleneck that no one ever gets around with, you've got a point of differentiation very, very quickly. But more important, you've got a product or a service that customers want because you've eliminated that bottleneck. And so simply put, you can go through those three different categories. You can say, do we have any bottlenecks in our product? Do we have any bottlenecks in our customer service? Do we have any bottlenecks in our processes? Are there any bottlenecks that our customers are complaining about? Are there any, forums or community groups where people complain about something that keeps popping up in what I do? And by identifying those, then okay, this is what I've got to fix. And it really is that simple. It's not rocket science. The challenge is being brave enough to acknowledge that my business isn't perfect. Something that we're doing isn't as good as it could be. Let's spend some time trying to figure it out to do that. So then you might go, could we automate this really complex part, or could we simplify it, minimize it? Could we make it easy? Could we pre-populate it? That type of thinking.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we are talking about is really what we consider as working on your business rather than working in your business. Because when you do these things, maybe you dedicate perhaps 5 hours. That sounds like too much, but that is what it takes a week to really look at how you can streamline your business. Maybe on a Monday, maybe on a Tuesday, sit down and think through these things and have your team together. And if you don't have a large team, get virtual assistants. There's some amazing people out there, or have a virtual body, that board of directors that can help you walk through these things. Those 5 hours will pay triple times back over when you do them right. I know, Nils, you've worked with some people who have tried to do this, but have failed dismally to make necessary changes that is needed. In your opinion, what stops people from following through, and making this happen, even though it makes sense to them and they can see how it's going to improve them, but they still can't make it happen?
Yeah, and simply put, the word is fear, and we are conditioned from birth, or actually evolutionary wise, we are on the lookout for threat. If you were to do a cross section of the brain, tuck your thumb towards your hand, curl your fingers over, this is our brain stem, and this is the limbic brain that is all about fight or flight. And even though our neocortex, the front part of the brain, is looking at creative ideas, what happens is the limbic brain goes threat, danger, 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 and it taps into what's called the temporal lobe, where we have all of these mental snapshots and videos and photos of times that things haven't worked, and we go, that's dangerous, I'm not going to go there and do it. So that's the simple reason, is that we're scared. And it makes sense, especially the bigger your business, if it's your money, your business, the last thing you want to do is to make a mistake. And so because of that, people just freeze. They either just go, I'm not going to do anything, I'm going to keep plodding on doing what I'm going to do, or I'm going to move on and do something different. And so what we suggest to people in ways that they can eliminate the risk, the first thing that you can do is to identify whether this is a problem truly worth solving. So that's the first thing that we look at, and that's a form of validation. So if we can validate that this bottleneck we've identified is something people really want solved, then that's going to reduce a lot of the risk. And we can do that for under $100, and we can do that quickly. The second thing we would then do is if we've identified this is a problem that people want solved, is can we validate that the market is actually willing to pay for the solution? So some people want the problem solved, but if they don't want to pay for it, maybe we don't want to make the effort to fix it up. But if they say, oh, I like the problem, I want it solved, and here's some money, then we go, aha, I'm really prepared to commit to it. And the third thing that we want to validate is is this a solution that effectively solves the problem? If it does that, then we can go ahead and do it. So if you can imagine those three types of validations, we do them quickly, we do them cheaply, we do them inexpensively. It eliminates the risk, but it goes, yes, we move to the next stage, we move to the next stage, we move to the next stage. In the older days, if we were to use that term, business was very much about, oh, let's build a big prototype, and we'd spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars for some big companies to build something, only to find at the end of 12 months or 24 months that it's a flop. And we can do it so much quicker using different digital tools to validate.
I love that. This truly is revolutionary to anybody listening. If you can get these things right, it's like having a paycheck before you actually work, because once you validate and you know everything is in place, you will be able to pivot really fast and knowing with confidence. Of course, there are no guarantees, but to a certain degree, that what you are doing right now is going to produce the desired result that you want, and will increase your bottom line. Let's help people very briefly here and give people a taste of what that validation looks like, and maybe talk about the very first one. How do you go about validating? There are people that say, you know what, just show me how to do that, and then if they can fix that, we've shown them that they can actually come back to Nils and show them, you can take on the next part. Would you share with my audience on that?
Yeah, and so some really quick, easy ones to do. The first one would be forums. So we want to validate whether we've got a problem worth solving. So if people are complaining and bitching, moaning and groaning about something that's not working on a forum, that's a really good way to do it. If it's not a forum, it could be a community service, or it could be a helpline or a chat log where you've got people talking about things. The other things you might find where people are talking about a problem could be on Quora.com, Quora.com. Another one quite often you'll find in Reddit. Reddit.com has a number of subgroups. It's a really good, opportunity to find what people are asking, the questions they're doing. Another thing that you can use is doing a search engine optimization. So looking for what keywords people are looking for. Usually Google has found out about 20% of searches are what's called long tail keyword searches, which are specific around a question, such as, how do I eliminate the frustration of my customer using blah, blah, blah. So there is a wealth of different tools that you can use out there. One that I like to use is called Uber Suggest. That is by neilpatel.com, is probably one of the US's or world's leading search engine optimization experts out there, and he has a tool that you can use for free to help you find out what problems people are looking for. So that's probably the first thing that we want to do, is to look at if someone has got a problem around those by looking at the research out there. The second thing that you could do then is, are people willing to pay for it? Could be to create a Google Meetup around a particular problem, or to run a paid webinar where people want to come to talk about and find solutions to a particular problem. So let's say, for example, I've got a pen that the lid doesn't close very well, but I think this is something that people want to do. So I want to go out there and go, okay, here's a forum on better pen closing, and it's going to cost you $50 to turn up. It's going to be 90 minutes. I'm going to run it on Zoom or Google or whatever it might be, Google Meetups, Google Hangouts. And if people are turning up to that, it's validating that people are willing to pay for that solution. So there's a market willing to pay for it. Some other ways that we can validate that a market is willing to pay for it is to create what's called a fake door. So in terms of internet design or website design, a fake door is when you actually might have a tab or a page or a connection to a product that does not exist yet. So it's like looking for a new solution for your pen. Click here, and then if it might have a page that's what's called a spoof landing page, which talks all about a new product that hasn't been built yet and says, are you interested in buying it? Buy now. And when you click on that button, it might take you to another page that say, thanks so much for your interest in our new pen. Unfortunately, we're not ready to ship just yet, but we'd love you to be involved in it. You'll be, by signing up here and putting your details like your email and your contact address, will give you discount for the first product when it rolls off the production line. And so the reason why it's really important to have this buy now button concept is that when someone might visit a website that shows buyer interest, but buyer intent is when they click on that buy now button. And what you can do to help make this happen is you can buy some cheap, inexpensive Facebook ads.
That's right.
About a particular issue that send people to that. So by spending maybe $100 or $200 doing some Facebook ads that take you to a landing page that is selling your fictitious or soon to be product solution, and having a buy now button, it's how you can validate whether the market is willing to pay for it. And for those who are wondering, I don't know how to build a landing page, there are a huge number of pre-filled landing page sort of templates that are out there. So if you just do a Google for landing page creators, you'll find a whole stack of different ones out there. So they're the first two most important steps to go through.
Indeed, this is outstanding. Nils, we are coming to the end of our time together. Tremendous information that when any serious business owner implement, this will be a game changer. Could be that small link to your next big thing. And thank you for that. As we come toward the end of our time together, we want to talk about the mindset that business owners must have when they are looking at how to pivot their business rapidly at minimum risk. Is there a sort of a thread right there that you have seen among people who does it well and others who don't do it well? What should they be thinking? What should be their position when it comes to this mind position?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about mindset, the biggest thing is not to look for perfection, but is to spend a little, learn a lot. So as I mentioned before, when it comes to prototyping, people will tend to, want to build it and then fingers crossed, hope that's going to work. That's just the worst thing that you can do. So that the people who really succeed in business nowadays, or pivoting or changing or creating a new product, whatever it might be, is that they're very, very good at going, let's build something really small and test it. So and see that it works. So spend a little, learn a lot, spend a little, learn a lot. And that means that things won't be perfect. Things won't be finished yet. And for the perfectionist, that's a hard thing to get their head around, is that they're thinking, but I've got to have it built. No, you don't have to have it built. What you need is be able to identify what the problem is, show that you've been thinking about a solution enough to convince them that you're going that way. And I could give you countless examples of companies, from Uber to Airbnb, from tech-based to physical-based companies that have gone out there doing it this way. It's like, sell it before you've actually built it. Prove that it's a problem that people really want solved. Then you can sell it, or show that people want to sell it, and go from there. So the mindset is, it's you want to learn rather than prove that you're right, because the customer is always right.
All love that. Learn rather than prove you're right. This is incredible. Because this has been wonderful for those who wants to learn further. Because we did even ask quick surface here in this conversation, where can they find you?
Sure. Probably the best way is to find us at our website, which is ideaswithlegs.com. And on that website, you can find out all about everything from our latest book, The Reinvention Sprint. And also, one thing that we've got going at the moment is a really exciting online program called the 30-Day Reinvention. So it really helps businesses pivot their business within 30 days. And that's at ideaswithlegs.com/30-day-reinvention.
Incredible. We will put that link at the bottom of this recording as well, so you can just click and be taken to that as well. Well, Nils, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Final thoughts before we say goodbye here to business owners.
I would say that you are smarter than you think you are. You are capable of innovating. You are capable of pivoting, and you can do it a lot faster than you might think is actually possible.
Indeed. Just get a mentor. Find somebody like Nils, and or just reach out to us, and we'll be able to point out someone who can help you. Why go anywhere else? Nils has got the knowledge here. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with me. And I hope you took a lot of value from our time here together. And I just want to point out a few things. If you're looking to start your podcast, or you want to scale your podcast, or you want to monetize your podcast, we've got a training program we put together for business owners like you who want to use this powerful medium to increase exposure and generate more revenue. Reach out to our team. We have created something very special for you, and we'd love to help you. And not only that, we've got some amazing people that are lined up to be helping us on this show. So stay tuned, and if you like this, make sure to 5 stars us, or just to make sure that you recommend this podcast to other business people, because we want to help as many people as we already are doing. In fact, last week I was looking at our ranking. We are ranking really well currently as among the top 2.5% of the most popular podcasts today globally out of 2.8 million. So if you want to know how to do that, just reach out to us. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, live well, live with passion. Know that the best is truly yet to come. Goodbye now, and thanks again, Nils. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18, or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.